Hello and welcome back to Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's Dumbest Moments of the Week. This time we've got two stories to go over today. The first being rather funny and the other being pretty ridiculous and silly too, and involving her interviewing Mark Zuckerberg in the House of Representatives last week. But first, let's talk about AOC's hair for a few minutes here. Sounds a little off topic, but I think many would find this Alex hair story rather interesting too. You see, recently Cortez came under fire when it was discovered she got herself a rather expensive haircut. A bit of a gossipy story, sure, but it can be seen as relevant since Lexi does try so hard to be this communist woman of the people, saying she's here to help lift up the poor out of poverty and such. A bit hypocritical for someone like that to not only pay hundreds of dollars to get her hair done, in the same look and style it was before no less, but also, Alex has also come under scrutiny for her lavish and overpriced outfits as well, and her jewelry and handbag choices. Needless to say, she's a bit of a label girl, probably with some kind of shopping addiction or something, and to wear all this gaudy crap and do your hair in this overly extravagant way, while also preaching to poor people and trying to bribe them for their votes, claiming you're one of them too, well, that certainly doesn't all add up. She kind of reminds me of those rich and pompous characters from the main city of the Hunger Games movies. They would try and talk down to and pander to the poorer parts of the world too, and Alex looks equally ridiculous doing it herself in the real world, except the Hunger Games was of course making fun of rich people overdressing like that, and overpaying for wild hairdos like what Alex has in real life. Because yeah, Cortez, on the other hand, she's just that out of touch and lacking in self-awareness so much she doesn't even realize she's a walking contradiction. Or worse, perhaps she does know this, but she just doesn't care because she's so attached to these high-priced things and material possessions. That, and she would have to think we the people and the voters are all too dumb to notice this. And well, we're not, Alex. At least most of us aren't. And those who don't see her as hypocritical in this way right away, well, they may not notice it specifically, but your brain did. It's like when you see some bad but almost passable computer graphics in a Hollywood movie. Like you're looking at a character's face and it seems almost real, but that uncanny valley effect is still there. And so too does Alex, and her public appearances have this sort of uncanny valley appearance to them. You might not be able to express how and what and why something is wrong with her in your own words, but something is just off. And we all know it. We can tell. It's in our gut instincts. This article from the Mary Sue even tries to defend Alex's haircut choices, trying to say $300 for a haircut isn't really that much for a woman to get it done and colored in the real world. This begs the question here though, why isn't this a case of the so-called pink tax? Seems like in every other situation where women have to pay more for a product or service, SJWs like this magazine, they get all up in arms about it. For example, leftists always complain about shaving razors and shampoo costing more for women, claiming it's because the companies selling those things are sexist who overcharge ladies on purpose. When, really, we all know women's products that cost more at the store are priced that way because they cost more to produce at the factories. Female razors tend to have extra blades or different designs and colors or even lotion on them. And also, feminine shampoo will have extra moisturizer and smelling ingredients in it too, so it all makes sense when you actually think about it. It's also worth mentioning that women can easily avoid these extra costs by just buying the cheaper male products they compare theirs to. But they don't do that because they want those extra features. They just also don't want to have to pay for them. Keeping all this in mind, it's rather funny that now, when it serves their cause, left-wing radicals like this Mary Sue article, they will gladly point out the fact that women's haircuts require more time and work and style depending on their choices and the process, and that's why they cost more. Isn't it funny how they love to have it both ways here, huh? Next, AOC herself chimes in saying 40 million Americans live in poverty under today's extreme inequality, yet the right wing want you to blame democratic socialism for their own moral failures. Our policies like Medicare for all advance prosperity for working people. They're just mad we look good doing it. Wait, what? You look good at some point in your public career, Alex? Well then please present some evidence of that. I'd like to see some pictures of this, because I've seen you waddling around Washington for the better part of a year now, but I have yet to see you look good while you were doing it. Sure, Cortez isn't the ugliest person in the world, and perhaps she even is one of the better looking ladies in Congress, but that doesn't say much. Let's be real. There's not a lot of competition there. That's like saying you're the smartest kid on the short bus. It's an easy claim to make when you've got no competition. Alex is like one of those okay-looking girls in your high school who only hangs out with bigger, less attractive friends to try and make herself look better by comparison. Finally, this story turns into Alex's side and this article claiming it's sexist to even bring this issue up. Perhaps they are right too. People do tend to talk more about ladies' looks and less about that topic for men when it comes to their public appearances, but at the same time though, Alex does invite this criticism as well. She just earlier, a few minutes ago, claimed she's some kind of hot-ass, good-looking congressional supermodel. So are we really supposed to just let that stand? I know if I said anything about my looks or physique or made claims that I was hot as hell or buff or some kind of sports star, people would certainly attack me for it too, because believe it or not, when you brag about your looks, you then invite criticism of them, regardless of your gender. In addition, when you preach about being a person of the people who champions the poor and wants to help and be one of them, you better be ready to face attacks when you actually act like a rich, spoiled brat who does more high-class, label-focused shopping than a Kardashian. Next, let's get to the even more ridiculous story for today. Recently, Facebook founder and CEO Mark Zuckerberg made another visit to Congress for another round of questioning, and in addition to almost standing up for freedom of speech, agreeing that people like Trump should not be banned from platforms, but instead, they should be allowed to speak to the people and their constituents and let all of us decide what we think for ourselves. Well, besides that part, which was actually pretty good, but regardless, it obviously angered stark, ban-hungry leftists like AOC, who wants all right-wingers deleted from the internet completely. I particularly found her attacks and push against Zuck here rather hilarious too, since, you know, that platform is already very much left-leaning and sympathetic towards them, and they also are very censor-heavy on conservatives already. But with whiny baby SJWs like Alex, it's really never enough for them, clearly, because she still went in hard on Mark Z, because apparently banning 90% of the conservatives out there still isn't enough. She literally wants 100% of us, every single person who disagrees with her. She wants us all unpersoned, banned from social media, fired from our jobs, and out on the street, begging for spare change. Here's a few clips of Cortez's genius line of questioning from that very fateful day. Let's go ahead and take a look and see what's up.
I'm not talking about spin. I'm talking about actual
Yes, in most cases, in a democracy, okay, I believe that people should be able to see for themselves what politicians that they may or may not vote for
are saying, won't take them
their
down.
Character for themselves.
So you won't take, you may flag that it's wrong, but you won't take it down.
Congresswoman.
Here we see Alex already leading the witness. She also says he won't take it down, like that's a bad thing. It's easy to assume she's talking about banning right-wing content on Facebook, and I'm sure she has her own convoluted SJW reasoning for wanting this to happen. But regardless of those lies she's dumb enough to believe, you gotta side with Mark Zuckerberg here, despite her differences. I mean, why should Facebook or any platform be banning content at all? Maybe in the most extreme cases like, say, something violent, bloody, or terrible happening on camera, or perhaps porn or exploited children should be banned. Sure, there are a few small instances like this where stuff should be taken down, but that's not what Cortez is talking about at all. She wants to ban people who disagree with her, and everyone not on the far left like herself. And banning opinions you don't like, well, that's pretty damn authoritarian of Alex. Pretty fitting for a socialist too, who's bordering on becoming a full-blown Chinese communist. She's well on her way there, I must say.
One more question. In your ongoing dinner parties with far-right figures, some of who advance the conspiracy theory that white supremacy is a hoax, did you discuss so-called social media bias against conservatives, and do you believe there is a bias?
Congresswoman, so I don't remember everything that was in the question.
That's all right, I'll move on.
Jesus Christ, lady, slow down. You're throwing too much bullshit at Zuckerberg here. Not even a guy this smart can sift through it all. And this is also a perfect example of AOC's typical routine in situations like this. She asks a ridiculous question full of assertions and then tells people, okay, wait, never mind, I'll move on, when they're a bit too slow to answer her or to ask for clarification, because of course they are. What she said is so confusing. This strategy allows Alex to make these insane statements with no accountability whatsoever. Kind of clever to do, maybe, but really, I think we can all see right through it. And also, not only does she bring up her anti-white racism here, out of basically nowhere, claiming we think we are supreme with no evidence whatsoever, but also, she even chastises Zuckerberg for daring to meet with a conservative at a dinner once or twice, even though we all know he's met with hundreds of different liberals and Democrats and socialists like Alex time and time again. Virtually all of the staff at Facebook is left-wing too, and half of them them are former Democratic staffers as well, and even they've worked on campaigns and been higher-ups in administrations like the Obamas and Clintons for years. But despite Facebook and all of big tech's huge and obvious left-wing bias, Alex still denies that bias even exists at all. And then she snaps on Mark for meeting with one or two conservatives one time, even after he's been kowtowing to Democrats indiscriminately for years. This really goes to show it's never enough for people like her. And how dare Alex call out people here for calling out her hoax, while she's also at the same time perpetuating another hoax, that Silicon Valley isn't liberal biased, which we all know to be true.
Can you explain why you've named the Daily Caller, a publication well documented with ties to white supremacists, as an official fact checker for Facebook?
Congresswoman, sure. We actually don't appoint the independent fact checkers. They go through an independent organization called the Independent Fact Checking Network that has a rigorous standard for who they allow to serve as a fact checker.
I mean, now we're just changing the definition of words here. Once again, white supremacy isn't what it used to mean, guys. AOC says it like it does, like it means she's calling out violent, radical racists who hate everyone, like how the term used to mean and how it was weighted heavily in the past, but nowadays, that term just means you're a white person who's not liberal. Tucker Carlson is supposedly one of these people, and that's why they say the Daily Caller, which he founded, supports racists like that, but that's ridiculous. Tucker is a well-mannered, squeaky clean TV host who's never heard a fly in his entire life. Yet, despite that, leftists like Alex will still call him this, and those associated with him are racist too, but that's all basically based on nothing, except disagreeing with her. And also in turn, Lexi thinks if she slings a baseless label at someone, it means they don't deserve to be able to use Facebook, or Twitter, or YouTube for that matter. Pretty ridiculous and a rather Orwellian take on things, I must say. She sure got that 1984 style newspeak and doublespeak down pat, and Alex is trying to play this propaganda game the best she can, but at the same time, she's just far too young and inexperienced at it, and also pretty low IQ, so that's why she comes off as this immature child who thinks playing chess is done the same way that you play checkers.
So you would say that white supremacist tied publications meet a rigorous standard for fact-checking? Thank you.
Congresswoman, I would say that we're not the one assessing that standard. The International Fact-Checking Network is the one who is setting that standard.
Notice how she says thank you before Zuckerberg even gets a chance to answer her question. Give the guy some time. Of course he's going to need a minute to think about things. Anyone would in this position. Not only is Zuck facing questioning in front of Congress and the world, but also he's getting this ridiculous, out there, completely baseless question filled with racist assertions coming from AOC, a girl who thinks she's some kind of smarty pants now, even though just a few short months ago she didn't even know what a garbage disposal was. So should we really expect her to know what racism or dangerous, bigoted white people look like either? I mean, in her mind, you don't even have to have done anything bad or to have committed a crime or hurt anyone whatsoever to become dangerous to her. No, according to Cortez, you just have to disagree with her or other leftists and SJWs. That's all it takes to be banned from the internet these days and put out to pasture and, at least, taken out of all public spotlight. Makes sense now too that she didn't even let Zuckerberg answer one question. It's because, as we pointed out about her typical routine earlier, Lexi is just using this opportunity to make these radical, baseless, anti-white people claims. And since they're in the form of a question about something largely unrelated, well, that's why she's getting no pushback and no accountability either for what she said at all. Amazing how liberals will cheer this lady on here too. And even they'll act like she just served Mark Zuckerberg with some kind of big fat, well thought out truth bomb, when really, in reality, Alex just shows us how dumb she really is and how she thinks all right-wingers and white people, we're all racists who don't deserve to use Facebook or use anything on the internet for that matter. What do you guys think? Was Alex being extra dumb this week? Was her expensive haircut a good look for someone who champions the poor and pretends to be one of them? And also, what's the deal with these off-the-wall questions she has for Mark Zuckerberg? Why do you think she hates white people and right-wingers so much? Comment your thoughts on everything below, and thanks for watching No Bullshit. Hit that like button if you enjoyed this video, and we'll see y'all next time.